Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's edition of the program. From 1990 to this day, 35 years after, Cameroon has experienced a high dose of socio-political hiccups, protest marches, social unrest, ghost towns, political agitations, armed conflicts and crises, and some of these events almost brought the country to a tipping point. Thank goodness we have sailed through as a country and as a people, and we are standing on our feet. When President Paul Biya addressed the youth on the occasion of this year's Youth Day, he cautioned them against any form of manipulation, especially in a decisive election year we are in. Maturity, responsibility, entrepreneurship are the watchwords for them and for us all, for a future that guarantees peace, stability, and prosperity. On Press Hour today, our focus will be on how to contain manipulation this year with an election full of stakes. This is Press Hour, and I am Kilian Dandifon in Yaoundé. You are welcome back. We are going to focus on how to contain, is it possible to contain manipulation, agitation during an election year like the one we are in, 2025, with an election, the presidential election, full of stakes. That will be our focus on Press Hour today, knowing that the president himself warned the youth not to accept themselves to be manipulated by whoever. And we have as guest on today's edition of the program, Professor Elvis Ngole, who is a political scientist. That is the cap that we have accepted today on Press Hour. Prof, welcome to Press Hour.
It's a great pleasure to be in the company of very distinguished friends, brothers, and people who are very used to, who are fellow citizens, patriots that I know very well, and men of conscience.
Thank you so much, Prof. We are going to see what you take as manipulation and the president is warning against. We also have an honorable person, Honorable Ojambeng Stephen Andong, who is the CPDM section president from Momo West 4 Engi. You're welcome to Press Hour.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is all mine, Mr. Killian. I want to extend warm regards to the televiewers, most especially to Professor Elvis Ngole, my political boss, who is here in the studio with us. You remember, he's the director of the CPDM Academy. So sitting here with the cap of a section president, I'm honored to have him. It's always a pleasure for us to come here all the time to give in our contribution to educate and entertain Cameroonians about the happenings, so that the rising generation should not be manipulated.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor to have you. Ndi Eugene Ndi, that's how he wants to be called exactly. He is the publisher and editor-in-chief of Newswatch newspaper. Thank you so much for accepting to come, Eugene.
Yeah, thank you, Killian. It's always been my pleasure to be on the program, and especially on this particular day that is coming after the Youth Day that was commemorated on the 11th, and also meeting respected politicians and people like the Republican professor Elvis Ngole and my very good friend PTA chairman of sorry, not in that cap though, but he's a PTA chairman
at so many levels.
At so many
Thank
levels.
you so much. We are also going to have on Press Hour today Joseph Chebonkan Kalabuse, who is the president of the National Communication Council. You know, when we're talking about manipulation, we're talking about the press also on the front line. We're talking about social media, and he has that daunting task to control that sector that is very volatile. We're going to have him in the course of this program. We are also going to have another person you may see for the first time, Dr. Fon Joshua, Gukumo, who is a political analyst, and he's going to react to the speech of the president to the youth. One other very renowned person who you will meet on today's edition of the program is Professor Victor Mbarika. He is the president of the board of trustees of the ICT University, and you know we brought him on board because the president harped so much on ICT technology and the rest. For now, we introduce Emanuela Vemnui, who read the newspapers for you and for Press R. Emanuela.
President Paul Biya's address to the youth on February 10 floods newspaper columns the weekend in Cameroon. Insider sees the message as hope for more jobs and self-employment support, especially as Biya orders setting up of municipal employment offices in municipal updates, then tells youth in the post, whatever the criticism, I will always speak the language of truth to you. Cameroon Tribune carries a similar message. You are definitely the most technology-savvy generation. Use it well. The Voice rather sees craving Biya, who appeals to youth ahead of elections in Youth Day address. Before the media describes youth unemployment, frustration and immigration as Biya's solutions that fail to reassure. To the Herald Tribune, it is Biya's jamais vu promises to youth. Just when youth advocate installation of telecommunications network in Toko in Cameroon Ecosse, Menchum Valley youth celebrate their day in pomp with over 6,500 answering present at the Benakuma grandstand to march in the Voice. Agbo Bala then exhorts youth to be architects of peace and security in the median. At the time 2025 Youth Day celebration in Indian records a massive mobilization and enthusiastic turnout after 8 years in Cameroon Acres. The Post newspaper writes how Cameroon administration celebrated Youth Day without Ida Batodio. Then Menchum SDO calls for peace, unity on Youth Day in the pilot. Before Cameroon Insider simply writes, 11 February 2025, youths had their day. As tensions mount over launch of National Park, Minad boss on firefighting mission to appease Mayokani population, writes The Guardian Post. Then PM Dion Gute orders inquiry to address quabbles in municipal updates. Cameroon Tribune reports that government has adopted broad-based measures to resolve situation in Gidigis National Park. The paper goes further to announce 2 billion CFA funds to be distributed to affected rice farmers in Mayo-Danai division. President Paul Biya then turns 92 and is celebrated in pomp in Cameroon Tribune. Municipal Updates reports that Biya's visionary leadership is what many have been celebrating. To Cameroon Insider, Paul Biya is 92 and counting, coming when Honorable Ninche warns there will be no election if Kamto is not candidate in the Guardian Post. Biya's envoy Dion Gute is in Addis Ababa for the AU summit in Municipal Updates. And we end with this story where a woman in Yaoundé has been caught selling a popular meal known as okok, for which she is reported to have urinated inside. The story is being carried on several newspapers. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
Thank you so much, Emanuela. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just tuning in, this is Press Hour, and we are broadcasting live from Studio 4 of the CITV Production Center, Mbalatu in Yaoundé. Today, we are talking about how to contain, is it possible, that manipulation the President of the Republic talked about in his speech to the youth be contained in this year, that some already say it is getting hot before we get to the event itself. That is our focus, and we're going right away to call on Professor Elvis Ngolengole to tell us when the President said youth should not be given themselves allowed to be used by people who probably are having hidden agenda, ill intention. What do you understand by that manipulation he talks about?
Yeah, one of the things we who consider ourselves as students of life, students of politics, is that when we were young, we were going through school, we learned through studies, particularly in courses on psychology, that if you do child psychology, educational psychology, human psychology, whenever a human being, especially a child, is sure that the father, the parent, is there, that presence is always very reassuring. And when that parent, such as we have the father of the nation in the person of the head of state, each year on the 10th of February, addresses himself to his children, the youths of Cameroon, and addresses himself in such very conscientious and caring language, such as we had last 10th of February, wherein the president, among the many things he said, which were very pertinent, he did warn, advise his children, the children of Cameroon, against all those forces that are manipulating them, using them, miseducating, disinforming them, and trying to influence them negatively. I think by that saying, the president is showing to the youth that he is not only conscious or conscientious of their needs of security, needs of work, employment, needs of having a good and skilled education, but as a conscientious father, he's telling the children, beware, be careful of these negative forces, because I, as your father, would not like to see any of you hurt. I, as your father, would like to see all of you grow. I, as your father, would like to see all of you stay alive and be able adults. I think that that statement, among other statements that he made on that day, was so powerful that the young people of Cameroon should see in the President of the Republic as their assurance, their insurance, the father who is always there and who will take care of their problems, who knows their problems, will take care of their problems, and wants to see them grow into rational, healthy, and happy adults and citizens.
Yes, Prof. And he also said he will always tell them the truth. Let us revisit that excerpt of the head of state, which talks about the youth being careful to be used, and then I will go around the set.
I urge you not to pay heed to these siren calls by some irresponsible individuals. Do not let them use you to achieve their evil plans of wreaking chaos in our beloved and beautiful country. Also, do not be swayed by the false and often unachievable promises they try to lure you with. For my part, I assure you that I will continue to stand by your side in addressing the challenges you face.
You actually read the president's warning well. That's exactly what he said, what you said, Prof. Yes, but I will turn to you, Honorable Ojamben Stephen Ando. When you listen to this part of his speech, what came to your mind?
Yeah, the first thing, let me appreciate the contribution of Prof. You know, nowadays with modern technology, if you watch it very practically, you will realize that the rising generations have been manipulated. Even with the recent technology, people are making use of it to change words. Even what you say using your orally, they change it, they manipulate it, and give you a different connotation about what somebody is presenting. And so because of this...
In that defect, it sounds exactly as if you were the author.
Exactly. This is what we call manipulation. Nowadays, it is very difficult for you to be able to deduce the truth from what is not the truth. And so, in order that young people should not be manipulated, they should be focused. They know their leaders. They understand them. and they should be able to master the vision in which their leaders are giving them. For instance, where I am coming from, if you know Ojambing is your leader and he is talking, it should not be on the social media that you will listen to what he is saying. If there is a meeting where you people are meeting, where he talks and passes out information one-on-one, there you can go back certainly and sure that this is what our leader was saying. If we want to concentrate on what the social media is saying, you may even tend to kill the right persons who are supposed to help you because of what others have used their voices on social media, turn it against, even make statements that the person did not even make. And so this is what we call manipulation.
But Honorable, there are many people, I underline the word many, who are listening to you now, who are watching you and say, what is he talking about? We're not talking about shunning or not using social media. We're talking about using it well.
Yes, well, of course, the social
Which means
media...
that you should also carry your messages to social media.
No, we are not refusing that the social media all along is bad, but we are talking about manipulators.
Okay.
Those who are using it for orthodox use, not for the purpose for which it was intended. To destroy, to crack the mind of young people, get them away from the truth, and implant their secret agenda into the mind of the young people, instigate them against the good people, against the state, and you see civil unrest here and there for just no cause. This is what we are talking about. We are not saying that we are against modern technology, but being very conscious of manipulators. Let me just give you an example.
Yeah, short one.
You're looking at, we're talking about a democratic country like Cameroon where there's multipartism. Political parties are there fighting to win elections. Instead of giving their political agenda to the young people what they think they can do, they go to get an excerpt of other political parties, distort it, put it on social media. It is circulating around like a wildfire, and people are just believing in that. That is what we call manipulation.
Thank you so much.
And so we must guard against this.
That's right. And Eugene, you as editor-in-chief, you as a publisher, how did you interpret it in your newspaper, Newswatch?
Yes, thank you, Killian. Just like the name goes, we watch the news, and if I am here, I'm here also to watch Prof and watch Ojambeng before I speak, and I'm happy that you've said this. You are bringing me after they've spoken. I'm going to be a little different from the way they interpret, perhaps because they're looking at it from the political standpoint, but I will stay Republican with Professor Onse. First thing, if we talk about, if President Biya says that they are irresponsible individuals, who is he referring to? Then when he says the youth should not be swayed by false and inachievable promises, who is giving them false promises? Who is giving them inachievable promises? And that person, if at all somebody is giving them promises, the person is filling a gap because the youth needed some promises from somewhere which did not come. I want to say that President Biya perhaps is saying so because he knows that he too has not lived up to expectation of the youth. Because if he had given the youth, if he had fulfilled his own promises to the youth will not listen to any other person. President Biya had to fulfill his own promises, but he says youth should not listen to others who are describing their own as false, which I also see that he too, his own may not be false, but they're also inachievable, because he has made promises to that he has not fulfilled with the Cameroonian youth, that I am also. All right, there are so many of the promises he has made, he hasn't fulfilled.
So and which are they? Because he enumerated a good number of what he promised, he has achieved.
A good number that he has achieved, just like a good number that he hasn't. He enumerated the ones he has achieved. He's saying professionalization of education, creating of schools, creating of employment for health workers, and a few that.
And you say that is not achieved?
I am saying that they are not enough. They are not enough.
So what else should he do? Well, let us be explicit.
No,
as a youth, what do you expect?
The youth needs jobs. They need an enabling environment to do business, because Biya himself said the public service can't absorb every young Cameroonian. But if you say it can't absorb every young Cameroonian, create the enabling environment for them to do business and thrive. All right, you start a small business today. The following day, you have to full up because a taxation has collected all the capital. Is that an environment where the young people will thrive? No.
But there are young people also who are thriving.
Yes, we are not saying that it's all bad, but I'm saying it can be better. It can be made better.
Yes. Now let us take some people who also observed, who watched the speech of the president and had an interpretation about it. The first person we would like to take is Dr. Von Joshua Gugumo, who is a political analyst. He also is a proprietor, and he has invested in education, both general and technical. Now, we want him to start by telling us what orientation he had when he heard the speech of the president.
The head of state was quite thrilling in his speech. Whether we like it or not, he's the leader and definitely has to face issues concerning the youths. He made mention of quite a few stuff there in terms of professionalization and education, which of course is very important. He also made mention of the fact that you should not be distracted, especially in this 2025, upon choice of orientation and all of that. We need to follow the national orientation in terms of youth development, harness these talents and develop them. However, like he did mention, we have to start from a very tender age. At secondary school level, it's important. I'm happy that the government is going towards that. I started that more than 7 years ago at the school complex here, and I'm happy that the government is expanding on that. So it's important that in as much as he was talking about specific sites being created, I think he did mention about 2 ongoing creation sites. It's important and appalling to know that at the secondary school, whether general or commercial, we need these sanctuaries whereby youth can practice a sense of professionalism before going out. Because the issue with our sense of education is that we have more of theory than practicals. It's the same textbooks we use abroad. You go abroad, it's the same textbooks, but the skills are not quite harnessed at our level because we don't have sanctuaries to practice on. So it's more of 90% theory and 10% practicals. And when you talk about practicals, it's just 1-2 months internship somewhere, and then. But if you really want a sense of professionalism, schools, government schools like private schools should be given the opportunity to create sanctuaries within the campus whereby students can harness these talents, because it's more of a practical tendency than just reading textbooks and writing exams.
Yes, and I had time to visit the campus where Dr. Von Joshua Gugumo is the proprietor, to see for myself whether he puts into practice what he's talking about. And actually, I saw some practical things that he's doing. Let him tell us more about the practice.
Actually, like you can see, on campus, you have laboratories or sanctuaries, as we do call them, whereby these secondary school children do practice cinematography. It's a good industry, it's entertainment industry. It's one of the best industries in the world. I mean, if you look at those who carry on entertainment, what they do earn is far more than any other sector in life. So we have cinematography, we have all the equipments that are needed, modern equipments for these children to produce their films, know how to direct films, know how to be actors, and which has a curriculum that is mixed with poetry, prose, and drama from literature. So we have a melange of subjects put together to harness this project as an industry on its own. We also have fish pisciculture at the school here that we do from secondary school, teach children how to produce a ton of fish and then less than, depending on the school level. And we also have music. We also have a studio that we can produce musicians, students who are coming up with music. We also have professional football. We do have lots of things around here that are sanctuaries based oriented.
He's talking too much about practice, and I think I found lots of that when I visited him. But there's something, everybody talks about technology, that today, without technology, we are going nowhere. We have countries that have developed, that have kind of leapfrog. It is technology that has taken them forward. And the same Dr. von Joshua Gukumo says that Cameroon needs a ministry of high tech. Yes, let us see how it works.
Point of reality. We need to orientate these youths, and it's only to keep them busy. I think we have to show them that we have them as a point of interest, which I think that's what he's trying to do, to make them understand that the focus is on them, and he thinks so much about them. And that's why Elias said there should be a ministry about high-tech industries, which of course has to be created as soon as possible. And it should be in the hands of youths, okay? Because these are curriculum that are contemporary. So you leave it to them, those engineers in ICT, programmers and AI development tendency, and you're gonna see what is gonna happen in the nearest future. So keep them occupied if you don't really want, because he was talking like a father. But now we need to put forth lots of things in place that would definitely keep them focused and being distracted.
Yes, you watch him. Eugene, let me come back to you. Before I brought him to the set on that video, you were talking about certain things. Is this one of the things that you think is lacking, that if we listen to what he is saying, created a high-tech ministry, made things work in school practical, will the problem of employment, unemployment not be on our lips every day?
Yeah, thank you, Kilian. I think if we go by what the doctor is saying, we would have reduced the employment, because people will not be looking at the public service. For instance, somebody who is doing fish farming in that school, for instance, leave school, and even if the person were not to continue schooling, the person can easily create a farm or a place where he can do the fish farming, and that will be income generating. All right. Somebody who is doing IT or somebody who is doing cinematography will easily get into the film industry and make money, and that will not be public service. And
probably not give themselves up to manipulation. Is that exactly
well, manipulation is something else.
Make the youth not fall prey to those the president defines as ill-intentioned.
You're right, Killian. The first thing is you need to be able to identify what you want and look at the areas where you can be able to have what you want. If you listen to what Dr. Gogomo was talking there, he gave practical examples of the skills they are giving to young people. He's not talking theory, he's talking practical. And you were there yourself to see what he was talking of. We have just seen the Aquafresh production on the school campus. He's talking about a ministry for technical or whatever he was talking about. Technology. I think these are the kind of things that the head of state is talking about. Young people should not allow themselves to be manipulated by people who cannot produce what they are telling you that they can do. Let me just give you an example what I saw within the week in relation to what we just saw Gogoma doing there. I met a doctor called Dr. Alima Silvester. Indeed, he has an organization called Muzak. They are dealing with naturopaths, drugs, and they are training a lot of Cameroonians. Their intention is to build hospitals in all the 10 regions in Cameroon, and none of the project is less than 1 billion. These are what we are talking of, practical education and talking to the people, touching the youth, not theory, manipulation, tilting them towards errors. This is what the head of state is talking about. And I think that if we have more and more Cameroonians involved in things like what this Dr. Ndia and his music is doing, we will reduce unemployment.
Okay.
Because young people will get themselves into issues that will fend for them means to survive. I hear my co-panelists talking about the head of state not being able to produce adequate jobs opportunity to young Cameroonians. Yes, it's true that it's so challenging. It's so challenging because we see a lot of young people still roaming the street. Even the crisis in the northwest and southwest, even in the extreme north, you realize
It's
that
a global
yes,
phenomenon.
most of
It's
the
not,
young people
specific to
yes, there's unemployment. It is not easy to create jobs to everybody, but more and more, our young rising generations are more interested in white-collar jobs. They only want to work, but they don't think that they can go into entrepreneurship, where they themselves can be job creators, so that other young people can get themselves there. When we just sit and we watch, we hear to theories that are very sweet, politicians come and give you good lectures in the air, bill casters in the air, and we all fall into it, and the outcome result is wrong. That's manipulation.
Yes, and
This
then there's someone, before I come to you, there's another professor like you who reacted to the head of state speech to the youth, and he says that of all the speeches he has watched, listened to, this one touched him particularly. And this is Professor Victor Baraka, who sent this contribution to us from the United States of America.
The president has given a lot of good speeches, but this is by far the best speech I've heard from His Excellency the President. And I want to throw a 1 trillion franc CFA challenge. I want to challenge some money I want to put in Cameroon and challenge 200 businessmen and diasporans to put in some money. Let's develop Cameroon in our own small way. The president's speech was largely on higher education and entrepreneurship. He did not spare words concerning the direction he believes higher education as well as vocational education should go, and I agree with him. The emphasis on professionalization of education is extremely important. And I'm so happy I can hear that come directly from the leader of our country. The part of his speech I want to focus on is where he says, it's not a direct quote, but this is what he essentially said, that even with all the good intentions of the government of Cameroon, the government cannot provide jobs to every young person that needs a job from the government. I have said this so many times in my past radio and television interview when I'm talking about Africa, everywhere around the world, I have mentioned this same thing. There is a very, very bad belief, and I guess it came from our grandparents and parents' days, where the dream to work was to work for the government. But no, I have repeated it, no government in the world, not even the United States government, can provide most of the jobs the citizens need. It's impossible. Young men and women of our great country, Cameroon, go out and get involved in entrepreneurial type ventures, in agriculture, in ICT. So, of course, I was excited that he mentioned ICT education, because that's my domain.
Wow. Prof, I see where you were watching him and just nodding from angle to angle.
I agree with Professor Victor Barika 100%, and of course Dr. Gogomo, who spoke earlier. I mean, I would think, because I watched the speech, this was a very powerful speech, and that coming from a father of the nation. And from a psychological standpoint, from a political standpoint, here is a father who delivers to his children, who are members of the national family that we are, and children who constitute 65% of the population. He's speaking to them in a very conscientious manner to show that he's a leader of conscience. He's speaking with his conscience to say, just like Professor Marika said earlier, he's being very frank with them. He's not speaking like a politician. He's speaking like a real statesman, a father who sees himself as he sees his leadership as a mission blessed by heaven. And he's telling these children who are his children that from my conscience, and as a matter of conscience, just know that the state which I'm leading, under no circumstances, I know where in the world can this state give you everything you need. That's a statement of honesty and of conscience, that a leader speaks like that. But you've heard Professor Marika and even the Honorable Ojambek said earlier, there is nowhere in the world, not even in the most the most developed societies or states, that a government or a state will give everything in terms of employment to the citizens, especially the young. It doesn't happen anywhere. And that the president is saying so as a leader, as the statesman that he is. He's telling his children, don't allow people who come and deceive you just because they want to manipulate or influence you by giving you false hopes and selling illusions that if they would do it all. No one on earth can do it all. No, the president is showing his humility. He's showing his sincerity. And you remember in that same speech, which I too considered one of the most powerful, the president said to these children, no matter the criticism, or in spite of the criticism, I will always speak the truth to you. And I stand by that truth. This is not a statement of someone who is campaigning or who wants to be a politician. This is a statement of someone who is telling you. He is a politician, but he's above that. He's above what we know as the ordinary politician who must be seen because he wants to be popular, he wants to be elected, he wants for people to, he's saying anything, even including things he doesn't even know anything about. The president is telling you that as a man as the epitome, as the incarnation of values, of virtues, of ethics. He's above that. He's above the daily political instinct. He's telling you, the youths, that don't be deceived. No one, no matter how many of them are out there say they want to be elected or they want to run for this post, they cannot deliver it, because if you're humble and honest enough in your leadership, you know that we are all, by definition, by nature, we are all limited. So no matter how intelligent you are, no matter how visionary you are, such as the president, we all have to be honest and humble to tell the truth to our children, that don't be deceived.
Especially to our children.
Yes, and I think the president is preparing these children for a successful adulthood, for being successful citizens, being successful leaders tomorrow. Don't allow yourself to be deceived, because even you, these children, when you'll be in positions of leadership, when you'll be adults, when you'll be fathers like he is, you cannot give all to your children. Yes, and if anyone tells you that you should behave like that, it's not
Professor
helping you.
Professor Evans, thank you for relaying what the president said to the youth. We have been talking here, advising them, trying to say what can happen. I had the privilege this week to meet the president of the National Communication Council, Joseph Chibonkan Kalabuse, the double honor because he is the pioneer presenter of this program, Press on CRTV. I was backing him up before I finally took over. He has a daunting task, more than so many other people this year, because the social media is a platform par excellence where you will have this manipulation take place, and it is part of his job. He's going to have it really difficult. When I met him, the first question I put to him was to, first of all, how did he feel? Did he feel personally called to action when the president talked about youth being manipulated because the social media, which is part of the media under him and the press? was he actually impersonally called for vigilance?
I think it was an apt description of the realities in the field today, and an observation coming from the President of the Republic, who is well aware of the trend of events in terms of the communication landscape. And I think that that observation pushes the Council to continue to do what it's been doing. You know, we organized early last year a national forum on hate speech, and we have continued to sensitize, and we think that with the assistance of Association of Bloggers and Cyber Journalists, we will continue to educate the public to be selective in the information which they get on the social media. To say that we can appropriately control the social media will be a utopic approach to the problem. It's a wide and varied situation which is very difficult to control, but what we want to do and are doing is to dampen the effect and to reduce the impact and to sensitize the public as well on the dangers of just embracing all of what comes on the social media. As you said, the laws are being matured in the country. The authorities are aware of what we need to continue. And the unfortunate situation is that we don't control all of what comes on the social media, because the platform that provides the superhighway for those who publish on the social media are not based in Cameroon and are not governed by Cameroonian laws. That's the first problem we have. The second problem is that these are supranationals. They go international firms that are based elsewhere, and even the local authorities that assist us in trying to reduce the impact of it, like Antique, finds it difficult to collaborate with some of these international firms. But that notwithstanding, we are working with Antique and other state institutions to try to see how we can reduce the impact of the consequences of some of these publications that come online, which are damaging to not only social peace, but the impact on our population.
Yes, impact on social peace and impact on our population, but we are living in a space called Cameroon. How daunting is it, given that the content of such social media platform is all over the world? He also tried to tell us what they will do.
Which we have is that publications can be made on the social media from as far as Australia or Canada or elsewhere in the world, and it will have an impact in Cameroon. But for those who are in Cameroon who can be traced, it is easy to lay hands on them. And if it goes to defamation, the courts are there that can arrest such situations. But the National Communication Council has some competence, but not the technical wherewithal on the social media. That's why we turn to Antique, or we turn to the authorities to draw their attention sometimes when things get out of hand, where they go beyond what the National Communication Council can do. And that's also an issue which we think that journalists should go online and publish online so as to counter part of this information that goes online. Because when a journalist is using his name online, he is putting that name at stake. And so, because he has been trained on how to treat information, he would certainly treat the information, even if it were an analysis or a commentary he was making, he would do that with some degree of responsibility.
Yes, and it is not only on social media per se that is difficult to control. We have people like you, Eugene D. You are a moral and a physical person as the editor-in-chief, as the publisher of Newswatch. Do you think that we should, or that the National Communication Council should do something that's special to make sure that some of, not you, but some other newspapers do not set ablaze some of our values?
Yes, I thank you, Killian. I want to stay in line with Joe and to say that what he has said opens up another chapter. What the laws, when we talk manipulation, most of the manipulation that is done online is done during and after electoral periods. During elections, we saw it in 2018, most especially when there was some post-election violence in the country. I think it is also now on authorities to understand that it is important. Joe said, journalists, we have a moral responsibility. When you stop journalists from not publishing the trends, you open the door for any other person to report what they think. And when it goes on the social media, when it's not coming from a journalist who has had the time to sift and know what is what to the public, it becomes very dangerous. Now he has admitted they can't control the social media entirely. How can we now get it? We would have opened the conventional media to give the facts so that it counters what is there, but the law doesn't permit us to report the trends. Just like the opposition that have been crying that they should change the law, we journalists have also been crying that it is better that they open it. We report trends. When we report trends, we are reporting. I know that if I say anything that is not true,
much manipulation can instead come from trends.
No, not from journalists. I'm saying Jojo said it here that on the social media, it is difficult to control. And many people, I will tell you, many people just turn to the social media to say what is going on. What is going on? But in a media, conventional media that is well controlled, we will be able to give counter information, and that will be verified and verifiable. I know that if I am reporting about elections, I say, okay, in Gi, this party X, party Y has won by this, and which is not true. I know that Joe is watching. I know that the courts are there. All right. So I will make sure that I try as much as I can to give accurate and verifiable information. That is like someone who is publishing on the social media who will just sit maybe in Bingui and then you just hear that in the somebody has carried ballot paper that is running like this. It's already on social media and then people start running helter-skelter and so on.
You remember that when you started speaking here, you said you were going to be Republican, although you be critical. That's what you are.
I am Republican. I am still Republican. I can see Republican Professor Ngole nodding. I am Republican. I'm just making proposals.
You actually are critically Republican. But there are people who own newspapers, as I said before, moral and physical persons, but they don't behave Republican. Now, the president of the National Communication Council also has a message for them. Let us watch.
We all know what is coming on. And it looks like a hurricane or a blizzard coming on. And we are taking precautions. First of all, the rules of the game are very clear. Professional ethics and deontology must be put first in the way press men and women handle issues. Press men and women shouldn't transform themselves into politicians. They are journalists, and they should be able to help the public, educate the public in making informed choices. They should be able to balance their reports. They should be able to be fair to all the actors, political actors in the field. And so these are some of the key things which the journalist is supposed to put in his head. And like I have the habit of always saying, when a journalist is professional in what he is doing, he can move on broken bottles without being hurt. And so we will be very vigilant. We will educate, sensitize, but we will be very vigilant to be able to strike, and strike as fast as possible when we find out that journalists are getting out of hand. in whether they are moderating programs, whether they are doing straight reports and all whatnot. The council will be very, very strict on that, knowing that we have a series of political events, call them elections, which will be very determinant. And we can already see the atmosphere which is getting hot.
Really already hot. Thank you so much. He also told us that they are going to watch out, particularly for hate speech and all the type of language, divisive kind of language. We don't have time to continue, but he spoke so much about what they are going to do. Professor Elvin Golengole, when you listen to the National Communication Council President give some of these orientations and positions, what message do you personally take? Do you feel satisfied that there are people who are watching out so that those who want to set our minds and influence our behavior negatively are contained?
Yeah, Mr. Joe Chebonkeng is an exemplar, an example of sort of professional journalist who has stood out as a very conscientious professional and citizen. And I'm very glad that from the position and the eminent position that he occupies now, having come from the beginnings, as you just said earlier, from this very, very format CRTV, that is in that position now, because at the end of the day, all of us, no matter what we do, if every journalist was like Mr. Ujindi, we wouldn't worry, because we know him to be someone who believes in ethics and deontology, and he is very conscientious. That is very good. Unfortunately, we all know, as Mr. Chebonkeng said earlier, there are some who pass for journalists, but what they do is anything but journalism. And a lot of them are in the social media. Some are they try their hand in the formal conventional media, but they don't do justice to the profession, and they don't help the good ones such as Mr. Ujindi. We need exemplars. We need examples, and we should, if one is a journalist, one should copy from the example of the likes of Mr. Joe Chebonkeng, because at the end of the day, when it comes from a father such as the head of state said on the 10th of February, our young people, who are the majority and the future of this country, have to listen, just like the Bible said. We have to learn to listen to our fathers, because our fathers, they may be anything, because we all grow up knowing that not all fathers are resourceful enough to be able to do a lot for their children. But whether you are resourceful or not so resourceful, a father is a father, and the Bible clearly states to listen to those who listen to their fathers turn out always to be better. And I think that in a year when we have such stakes, such as the presidential elections and the regional elections, it is important that this year's theme for the Youth Day was maturity and responsibility. That is to say, these 65% of the population of Cameroonians, beware, watch out. You merit maturity. You deserve to be mature so that you can be responsible, because if not, through this manipulative,
it's spoiled for everybody.
If you are spoiled, you spoil it for everybody. Your future is spoiled, the nation is spoiled, and the father is saying, don't allow that to happen.
Thank you so much. We're going to give you 1.5 minutes, Honorable Ujambe Stephen, and after that we'll talk about an achiever, someone who has 183, if I'm not making a mistake, awards, and he received the highest award so far recently. We'll talk about that, but let me get your last word on our topic.
Yes.
That is, youth should be cautioned. They should listen to the word of the wise, not to be manipulated. It is not like saying they should be docile, dumb. It is like saying they should not be manipulated. They should take their responsibility.
First and foremost, I really appreciate the contribution of Joe. You can see somebody who's well read and understand the field in which he finds himself there. I would plead with all the youths of Cameroon to have in them Republican values. Not only Republican values, they should also have God-fearing values, so that whatever that we are doing, we build, we do not destroy. In as much as I appreciate the effort of the men of the media and the press with what they are doing to nation building, but I still think that there is some exaggeration in some captions that we see on newspaper and stands. The CPDM government has beaten more than they can chew. You see, very wild captions like that, as if you have the size of their mouth to know what they are chewing. These are things which gives an opportunity for people to start writing terrible things, because somebody will just imagine what you have behind your mind before writing such a caption, and what the person is going to reproduce out of that. It is dangerous.
Thank you.
Go even on social media, go on WhatsApp groups. Please permit me just elaborate on this. WhatsApp group, if you can censor the write-ups that are going on WhatsApp groups, I think there should be a check on the WhatsApp groups, because these are the areas where our values are being reduced to nothing, and not only reduced, but manipulation is promoted through those sectors.
Yes, and there's someone I invited. He will be flying back to the country. He was supposed to give us exactly and tell those who are using wrong content on WhatsApp, on social media, that there is nothing that is posted on social media that cannot be traced.
Good.
So people should be very careful about that. Now, Eugene, let's talk about the achiever. The achiever is Tumfor Nikohali, who had one highest award that you would tell us about.
Yes, maybe we have no time, but let me say that it's Prof. We should learn to know that being in power for long is no guarantee that you can always win an election. And also being in power for long does not stop you from winning a free, fair, and transparent election. When we talk manipulation, we should first of all start with registration. Make data available, make statistics available on registration, like Elekam should do that in real time. And you know Tumfor Nikohale now, who received a doctor honoris causa from the British American Open University of California, has been part of the election management body, the ONEL, in those days, and I know him to be a very straightforward somebody. So that's why I wanted to say this, because in his days when he was at ONEL, he used to give the statistics the way they are, and he did a very good job. And because of his activities in the fields of human rights.
There are some fictitious polling stations he did not allow to take place. He changed
that
them.
is
yes.
Yeah.
Let the two elders talk about him.
Yeah.
Yes, Prof, you will end. Yes, you, Honorable Ojamba.
Yes. I know Barrister Tumfor Nikohale. First of all, we are men of the same denomination, the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon. My former boss in the CMF, Christian Men Fellowship, is a man who is grounded with Christian values. And if you listen to him talk in most of his occasions, he talks about values, credibility, and honesty. So if he's receiving such awards, I can only give him a pat on the back and thank God for his life. And same, I am repeating it to the young Cameroonians, especially today, when CYF are celebrating.
Your elder may not speak if you continue to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yes, Prof.
No, I know Tumfor Nikohale very well also personally, and I appreciate him just like Honorable Ojambe to be a man of virtue, a man of values, and indeed a very patriotic Cameroonian who is very achieving. He's a high achiever, and I'm not surprised of this latest award that he's got. I congratulate him. Just on this, by the same token, permit me to seize this opportunity to wish to join the other young people of Cameroon to wish our President Biya,
happy anniversary,
because it's God's grace, and then anything that comes from God, we should always see it as gold. That's very golden. It's good, and we wish God to give him many more years, because those of us who lost our fathers when we were young, when God has given such grace to a leader such as President Biya, we see our fathers through him, and would like that God should continue to give that grace and that blessing, because every human being must aspire, must look up to a father.
Thank you.
Because that's God's grace, that's God's blessing.
Grace in this and blessing. Thank you so much, Professor Elvis Ngolengole, political scientist. Thank you to you, Honorable Ojambeng Stephen Andong. Thank you, Ndi Eugene Ndi. Thank you to Joseph Chibonke Kalabuse, to Dr. Von Joshua Gugumo, and to Professor Victor Mbareka. Thank you especially, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. You will have another opportunity to watch this program on Monday at 2:30 when we rebroadcast it on CRTV Mother Channel, TV of course, and on CRTV News on Wednesday after the news in French. Thank you once again, and be blessed. Take care.